Welcome to Betting Weekly WTA, the women's tennis betting podcast, brought to you in association with Bet Rivers. Before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe to us on YouTube and your favourite podcast provider. And tell us what you think in the comments. And don't forget to follow us on social media. The handle is @BecauseWeWin. And you need to subscribe to the Betting Weekly newsletter with picks on various sports from all our handicappers. I'm Rory Giovanni. With me, as ever, is Nigel Seeley. Yesterday, we had the live draw watch-along with Tim Dennis for Wimbledon. We also looked at the outright markets. Today, we're looking at the best bets in round one, which starts on Monday. Nigel, before we get into it, we've had our fair share of shocks in recent years. Obviously, Marketa Vondrausova taking the title in 2023, Barbora Krejcikova last year. I mean, there's not much time, grass court prep before Wimbledon. Do you think that means more upsets to come?
Good morning to you, Rory. I think the outright market, yes. I think, you could go down the list, as we said on the outright show yesterday. You can make a case for about a dozen of these women players. We've seen in the last 8 years, 8 different people have won it. Sabalenka has never got to the semi-finals, never got to the final. So I think that, yes, there is a potential for a shock winner. There is still a tendency, though, to a lot of people to bet a lot of heavy favourites in the match bets. And the match bets, betting favourites at Wimbledon is a strategy that usually does you well. So, a lot of people might perm up parlays, put 7 or 8 very heavy favourites in the parlay. And in round one and round two, they do very well. The record for underdogs in this tournament for men's and women's is pretty poor. More so for the men's. The men's record is a lot worse than the women's. But that is a strategy for most bettors. For years when I've worked in betting offices, first round of Wimbledon, you get a 20-leg parlay of everyone minus 1,000, minus 10,000, 5,000, minus 2,000. They just perm it all up and don't think that anyone can get beat. The problem this time around, there's a lot of short price favourites who may have some injury concerns. An injury will cause you problems. And you always get one or two, and especially in the women's game. The women's game is much more competitive, I believe, than the men's game currently. And there are shocks available on the women's game. But the strategy early doors is to bet favourites. And if you do bet favourites, you do tend to make money, especially in round one. And especially in majors when there's so much money at stake. £33,000 for the winner in round one. A lot of money for these girls. So they're playing for a lot of stuff here. And the favourites do tend to motivate themselves more when the paycheck is bigger.
They certainly do. Let's get into it. And no better place to start, really, than the defending champion, Barbora Krejcikova. She's up against Alexandra Eala, the 20-year-old from the Philippines. And as you can see, Krejcikova is the underdog here. She's plus 108, Eala minus 134. The spread 1.5 games, totals 22.5. No previous meetings. The reason for these prices is Krejcikova's had a back injury for most of the year. Had a couple of wins at Eastbourne this week before pulling out before her quarter-final with a thigh issue. Eala, she had that incredible run in Miami, reaching the semi-finals, beating a number of slam winners. She's actually reached the final at Eastbourne. She's playing in the final later today against Maya Joint. Nigel, in our outrights preview, you said you were quite keen on Eala in a very open third quarter. But these prices, is she perhaps a little bit short here?
Well, I mean, since we recorded yesterday, there has been a big move for Eala here, down to minus 134, which has put me off a little bit on the money line. When they opened up, she was around about minus 115. And I would have played. Well, I actually have played at minus 115. At minus 134, I'm not really going to play. But there is a strategy to have in this match. Krejcikova has got problems. I mean, the match in Eastbourne, the 2 matches she won, she was so lucky to win them. I mean, she beat the British pair, Harriet Dart and Jodie Burrage, and she was very fortunate to win those matches. Her game was absolutely full of unforced errors. Her serving was nowhere near the high standard that she's shown becoming a multiple major champion. And she clearly wasn't fit. And she went into the quarterfinal against Krejcikova and she pulled out before the ball was even hit. So that is a massive worry if you are betting Krejcikova. I think a lot of people might see the fact that Krejcikova is plus money. They think that she's a defending champion and may fall into a trap here, but something isn't right with her. She's only played 6 matches this year, which is you need to come into Wimbledon with a lot more matches than that. And to have an opponent like this, who is probably one of the most dangerous floaters in the women's draw, round 1, is a bad thing for Krejcikova bettors. The only concern, if you're betting Eala, is I got a feeling Krejcikova, if it was any other tennis tournament then she wasn't defending champion, I don't think Krejcikova would turn up here. But the fact that she's going to come out and play, the first match on the second day to defend her title, start the defence of her title, I think that is an incentive for her to turn up, which is good for Eala bettors because that's what you want. Eala is on some incredible run. I mean, I did think when she broke onto the scene that the market has got a little bit carried away with her. A young girl, I knew she was going to be pretty good. She went to the over to Spain to Nadal's academy, and she worked out of there. And I thought that the market has got a little bit too carried away with her. But her run this week on the grass has been absolutely sensational. She played 13 matches on grass, and she won 10 of them going into a final. She's only 20 years of age. I know the final is today on a Saturday. Her match won't be till Tuesday, so there's no real worry about that. And I think full of confidence. And one thing I have noticed about this girl is that the big stage she gets better. I mean, her performance in Miami was sensational. Get to the semi-final. The players that she beat Iga Swiatek. She had no fear, and I think that she'll revel in the opportunity of playing the defending champion first match on. So we may have missed the boat on the money line, -134. I'm not going to put it as an official play, but I do like Eala, and I'm slightly concerned that Krejcikova may not complete the match, or she may not even show up, if her injury is too bad. But I think she will because she's the defending champion. But I think if you were going to have a bet, I think it could be rather embarrassing for Krejcikova. And I actually quite like the -1.5 Eala here. I think if she wins, she's going to win well. And Krejcikova has dropped some sets quite heavily on her comeback this year. I mean, she's lost 6-love to Kudermetova, 6-love, 6-3 in the French Open. Yastremska beat her 6-4, 6-3. So there may not be much fight left in Krejcikova, and I think this Eala is the future of women's tennis, and I think it's a statement win for her, and I think she'll thrive on the big stage.
So there you go. Just a lean for the young Filipina there against the defending champion. Moving on, Zeynep Sonmez against Jaqueline Cristian. Now, this is one of the matches you picked out, Nigel. And when I saw this, I was thinking, hang on, what's going on here? Because as far as I know, and as far as I can tell, well, from their records, these are two players who are pretty awful on grass. So I'm intrigued to know what your thinking is here.
Well, my thinking here is, I mean, it wouldn't be the match that anybody would. There'd be nobody in the world of tennis podcast or the world of tennis betting would be covering this match in the women's singles. So that's the kind of content you get here. It is really, really, really a massive negative for Jaqueline Cristian. I mean, I watched her play the other day against Yastremska, and I mean, this girl cannot play on grass. She's. I think she's the worst player in the tournament on the grass statistics. I mean, she got beat 6-3, 6-2, but really it could have been 6-love, 6-1. She was all over the place. And I looked at her straight away. I thought, whoever she plays in round 1, she's a fade. I looked at her record. Her record on grass is probably the worst in the draw. I mean, in her career, she's only won 2 of her 13 matches on grass. And when you break down some of that, she beat a girl who was ranked 939 in the world, Stuskek, when she was -2,500 to win. That was one of her only wins. And her only other win was against Bonzetti, who is a clay court specialist, who is also pretty poor on grass. Whenever she's been up against anybody she's expected to lose, she's been hammered. Now, you say that Sonmez is pretty bad on grass, which she is at the top level, but her win percentages in her career is a lot stronger than Cristian. She's played 24 matches on grass. She's won 14 of them. They have been at qualification level. They have been at some low level, but she reached the last 16 in Berlin. She's played 5 matches this year and won 2. Cristian hasn't won a match this year. And I price it up. I mean, I go through these matches and have a sort of rough idea how I price it up. I price up Cristian here as around about a minus 125 shot. Now, to get odds, Sonmez here at minus 125 shot. The market opened up at minus 110. She has been bet again all day and this morning, and we may have, again, when the draw came out, she was minus 110. But I got a feeling she's going to cover the spread here. So I'm going to go for her on the spread minus 1.5 at minus 107 because Cristian is here for the paycheck. To me, there's no reason why this isn't her time of year. Her grass court form is awful. She's played 2 matches this year and she's been absolutely poled. She was a minus 150 favourite in her first round in Nottingham, and she got beat in that. And the spread, the girl won by a 3-game margin. She was plus 150 against Yastremska in Eastbourne, and it was 6-3, 6-2. Honestly, she's not a grass court player, and I'm taking the chance on Sonmez here purely and simply because I think Cristian is the worst grass court player in the draw, and I'm going to take her. I've missed the money. We've missed the money line here at minus 132, but I'm going to take on the spread at minus 1.5 at minus 107 because I think this could be quite messy for Cristian.
So there you go. Nigel's first official play at Sonmez on the spread, so minus 1.5 games at minus 107. Moving on to one match I've picked out, Katerina Siniakova against Qinwen Zheng. Siniakova plus 145, Zheng minus 182. The spread's 2.5 games, totals quite high at 22.5. And I thought what was interesting about this is these two have met twice on grass, at Wimbledon 2 years ago and Berlin last year. And Siniakova won both times in straight sets. Now, Zheng did have a couple of wins at Queen's over Mcnally, Kessler and Emma Raducanu. So they don't look bad results. And she did take a set off Amanda Anisimova, who was a runner-up in that tournament. But Siniakova might just have her number on this surface. And she's in decent form. She came through qualifiers at Berlin before losing to Elena Rybakina, so no disgrace in that. Same at Bad Homburg, and then she fell to Jessica Pegula, who's playing Iga Swiatek in the final later. As an aside, I think Pegula's well overpriced for that final, given her record on fast surfaces against Swiatek. But for me, Zheng still doesn't convince on grass. I think Siniakova at plus 145 is a fair price. I do think there are better bets elsewhere. So it's just a lean for me. But as I say, Siniakova, 2 wins out of 2 on grass over Zheng. Should have a chance of making it 3 here. Nigel, any thoughts on that one?
I always want to take on Zheng on grass. I know she beat Raducanu the other day, but Raducanu had an off day, and it's done one time in my career where I've actually bet Raducanu and she didn't put in a terrible performance. But I don't think Qinwen Zheng is a grass court player, and against a proven opponent here like Siniakova, I like it. I quite like the spread as well. I'm probably more inclined to bet the spreads on the dogs. Just take the 2.5, or maybe her on the spread on the set handicap. But they're going to low money that. But Zheng would be a fade for me in the early stages. I can't see her making it deep in this tournament.
Moving on. We've talked about one Czech with injury problems. Here's another, Karolina Muchova, minus 132 against Xinyu Wang, plus 107. The spread is 1.5 games, totals 21.5. One previous meeting, and that was at the 2023 US Open, where Muchova won in 3 sets. But she's been sidelined for most of this campaign with a wrist injury. She did play at Queen's. She lost to eventual winner Tatiana Maria in 3 sets. Before that, she had a first-round exit at Roland Garros. Wang came from nowhere to reach the final in Berlin last week. She went down to Marketa Vondrausova. I'm a little surprised to see her as the underdog here. What do you think, Nigel?
Well, yeah, I mean, I bet her even money yesterday. And that price is long gone, though, that plus 107. Unfortunately, she's now down to minus 110 around that kind of market. But even at that price, I think she's a bet here. I think Muchova is really struggling. Like Krejcikova, I think she's got, as you said there, so many injuries, wrist problems. And if you're a tennis player with problems with your wrist, it's the worst injury to have. And I've got a feeling Wang here will overturn that US Open defeat and win this. And I think at -110, if it goes back to even money, that kind of price, anything around that market, I'm going to put this as an official bet at -110 because that graphic has gone since this morning since when the graphics were made. Muchova is just. Even in her, she started off in her career as doing well at Wimbledon. The last 3 years, she's been beaten round one in the last 3 years. She's been pretty much a heavy overwhelming favourite in all those 3 matches, and she's got beat. I don't think grass has ever been her main surface. I know she's done well at the earliest parts of her career, as I said, but her breakthrough was always going to be at the French Open. I fancied, she had her opportunity to beat Swiatek a couple of years back, never took it. But this is now not her surface. Wang must be in the form of her life and the confidence she must have compared to how Muchova's career is going. She beat Katerina. She beat she come through qualifying to reach the final in Berlin. She beat Jabeur, Katerina, Gauff, Badosa, and Samsonova, and never dropped a set against. I dropped the set in qualifying against Jabeur, but in the main round she never dropped a set, and she pushed Vondrousova tight. Vondrousova's now a Wimbledon champion, and she's considered like the 4th or 5th favourite of this tournament, and she pushed her really, really close in the final. So she's in the form of her life, and she reached the 4th round here last year, and she beat Jessica Pegula to get to the 4th round. I think this is completely wrong price. This is priced up in history and reputation and world ranking, not on what we've seen currently on the grass court swing. And I think Wang at anything around -110 is the wrong price. I think she should be an overwhelming favourite. And I really like her on the money line. She's one of my strongest plays.
So there you go, Xinyu Wang to beat Karolina Muchova. Moving on, Coco Gauff, number 2 seed, opens up against Dayana Yastremska. The Ukrainian +460, Gauff -715. Spread 5.5 games and totals 19.5. Now, when these two last met, which was here in Madrid, Yastremska won the first set 6-love, and Gauff came back to win 7-5 in the third. And Yastremska's had a decent grass court swing. She reached the final in Nottingham, went down to Eala, who we've discussed earlier in the quarterfinals at Eastbourne. Gauff, on the other hand, played one, lost one. That was against Xinyu Wang in Berlin, and we talked about Wang just then. She reached the final. Yastremska's very flaky, as I've said on here many times before. And she was well beaten in midweek by Eala. That spread plus 5.5 games is tempting. That would be a lean for me. Gauff obviously just one match on grass this year. It's not her surface. All those years ago, she did beat Venus Williams on number 1 court, but it's never been her surface. She's not got a great record at Wimbledon. I think she'll get through, but I do like Yastremska to cover the spread here.
Yeah, I mean, she's a player that's got good grass court potential. If I was given a bet here, I'd probably play the over 19.5 games, -103. There is a problem sometimes when you bet a heavy favourite. You could get a first set where she can win it 6-4, and then all of a sudden she could, or 7-5 or something like that, and then all of a sudden the second set she can completely capitulate and the favourite runs away with it, which happens a lot of times when you bet in these dogs, especially in majors. So I same way of thinking as you. I wouldn't be betting Gauff at -715. And it's very hard to win the French Open and go to Wimbledon and do well as well. I mean, it's very, very difficult. There's only a few men who've done it. I think in the men's game, there's only been a few, like the Roger Federers of the world and the Dows of this world. So it's very, very hard. And Coco Gauff, I think she's going to find it hard to transition from clay to grass. She's been on a lot of chat shows in America. She's got huge fame now. And, sometimes when you win something and you go back to reality, Yastremska in the first round of Wimbledon might be a little bit of a come down for her. So I think she might struggle, but I would probably be inclined to go for the overs and the 19.5 if I was going to play. But yeah, I agree. I agree. This is not going to be easy for the French Open champion.
Okay, so we're
I
both
mean, I'm intrigued. I just wanted to say something. The two things. The first thing is Wang is minus 109. I just checked the bet with his website now. She's currently minus 109 in live. So that is a bet that I will have at minus 109. She's actually gone favourite against Muchova, which is right. She should never be in the dog. But at minus 109, I think she should be a heavier favourite than that. And that was the first point. The second point, I'm quite intrigued to what you're going to say in this one, Roy, because this is one of your bets. And I had it down on my shortlist. And I took it out, so I'm interested to see where you're going, see if you're on the same page as me. But this was on my. I originally had 5 matches I wanted to speak about, and this was one of them. So I'm intrigued to see where we're going to go here. We might have a difference of opinion. We'll see.
Well, that match is Katy Mcnally against Jodie Burrage. Mcnally minus 122, Burrage plus 100, even money. The spread 1.5 games, totals 21.5. They met at the same stage at Wimbledon 2 years ago. Burrage was a $2 underdog and she won 6-1, 6-3. Since then, Mcnally's played just once on grass, and that was last week. She lost to Victoria Azarenka in qualies at Bad Homburg. Burrage this week, she had 3 match points. We talked about Krejcikova struggling. Burrage had 3 match points against Krejcikova at Eastbourne this week, and I backed her to win that match. So that was a bit of a letdown. She's got a big serve. She's suited to grass. Mcnally isn't. Burrage is higher in the world rankings. I honestly don't know how she's the underdog here. I saw this and thought, this is priced wrong. Burrage at even money's a play. I'm definitely on this. I don't understand. You know, sometimes, and it happens in the first round of slams. And I've got another one later on, which is similar. When you see the prices and you're just not quite sure why they're priced up like this. For me, Burrage wins this. I don't know. I haven't looked at the price for straight sets, but I mean, she can be a little bit temperamental, but I think even money, I thought she'd be quite a strong favourite here.
I agree. It was one of my. I took it out. I just looked. The reason why I just changed my mind slightly is I looked back at Mcnally's grass court game in the early part of her career. She has shown a little bit of potential on grass in her early part of the career. She's in the years 22, 23, early 2019. She played some good grass court tennis. She got through qualifying and got beat by Heather Watson in round 1, and then she got through to the semi-finals in Surbiton as well. So I did like that. And another interesting, she's played at Wimbledon twice before, Mcnally. And she's been beat in round 1 by British players in both on both occasions. So I do like Jodie Burrage, and I'm glad you were there, because I just had a little doubt in my mind when I look back at her form. But what you're saying there and the way that she beat it the last time they played, the first 3 I'm going to do when we finish this podcast before I speak to Sean Calvert, it will be betting Jodie Burrage at even money, because I think that will go. It was definitely going to be on my 5, and it was going to be a bet. But now you've convinced me. So. Yeah, I'm massive agreement on that. Jodie Burrage to beat Mcnally.
Yeah, both in agreement there. Jodie Burrage, even money against Katy Mcnally. And the next one, for me, similar logic. Yanina Wickmayer, plus 128. Renata Zarazua, minus 159. Spread 2.5 games, totals 21.5. This is going to be Wickmayer's last tournament. Former world number 12. She's 35 years of age. And she's something of a grass specialist. I mean, she's hard court grass. You know, she does like to attack. She likes to come into the net. And she I think, was it up to Madrid this year? Before Indian Wells this year, she was off for nearly a year due to injury. Before that, she was ranked 88 in the world. I think her world ranking's about the 900 at the moment. And she reached the semi-finals in Seoul just a couple of years ago and gave Jessica Pegula a bit of a test. And this year on grass, she beat Eala Seidel in qualifying at Hertogenbosch. Seidel was seeded in the qualifiers. On the other hand, Zarazua is pretty much allergic to grass. She did show in 2021, she reached the semis of the ITF 100k event in Nottingham, but 2 of her wins in that tournament were by retirement. She did qualify for Wimbledon last year. She lost to Emma Raducanu in round 1. That's actually her only main draw match she's played on grass on the WTA tour. In Eastbourne qualifying, she did beat the youngster you were talking about, and I've been practicing her surname to try and get it right.
Yeah.
The youngster, Mika Stoisavljevic. There you go. Got it
Well
right.
done.
And then she lost to Greet Minen. She got closer than I thought she would to Minen, but I think Wimbledon's going to play quite a bit quicker. To me, Wickmayer should be favourite. I'm really confident that she'll take this, and so Wickmayer plus 128 is a bet for me. I think this is what happens with grass, particularly because there's such a short run up. Not many players have that experience, so people, the compilers go on world ranking and just general recent record, but this is a clash between two players who are poles apart when it comes to grass. So I'm confident about Wickmayer here.
I watched her match against Susan Lamins in Hertogenbosch, and I actually bet Wickmayer, and it was one of the most strangest matches you've seen. She was 3-0 up in the first set, and then she didn't win a match. She didn't win a game. Lamins won the first set 6-3. In the second set, Wickmayer won it 6-love.
Yes,
and then in the third set, Wickmayer raced into a lead again, and then didn't win a match. Each player hit runs of 6 consecutive games to win it. It was incredible. But Wickmayer produced a lot of unforced errors. She's nowhere near the player that she was, when she, in the early part of her career. She's been around a long time now. She's been around 10 plus years, but she wasn't in the early part of her career. She was 15 plus years now. She's a lot better, not worse than what she is there. So if she can get some of that form back from her early careers or in recent years, then she's obviously a bet here. But there is a massive market move against her. If you look at the market's drifting against her and going for Zarazua, which is something that it puts me off a little bit. And, the reason why sometimes where it puts me off a little bit is because why would anybody be concentrating on this particular match? I mean, there's better matches in this one, but the fact this has been a decent move for the favourite here, and that probably would suggest that there may be some kind of injury concern to Wickmayer. Wickmayer's only won 2 of her last 8 matches, and she hasn't played for 2 weeks. I mean, her last match was that Hertogenbosch defeat, so there may be some injury, and that would be. But on what we've seen on their career, Wickmayer does deserve to be the favourite, but the fact that there is some negative in the market towards her is a little bit of a concern for me.
Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, he's Wickmayer's last tournament, but Zarazua, to me, she's just. I mean, I was a bit of a critic of her, and she actually last year she did play well. This year she had a knee injury early on in the year, and struggled. I think she's over that now, but still on grass, I'd definitely be against her.
Sometimes when you price up these matches or when you do these things with these players, you actually go into when you see a main draw, you have a negative for a player before whoever they're playing. So in this case, your negative is Zarazua. My negative was Cristian. I just thought that whoever she plays, I'm opposing her. And then when you get the play, then you look at it and you have to make a case for that particular player. But your mind is always looking at the negative. You're more about, I can't have this player on this surface. And then rather than having much confidence in her opponent, it's more the negative of the fade for that opponent rather than the confidence. And you've got to stick with that. So I think it's a very similar play to my Cristian play, that I've got such a negative for her. Even if she played, my next door neighbour in the first round, I'd be trying to make a case. But she's 67, my next door neighbour, but I'd still be trying to make a case for her.
Yeah, I mean, if Wickmayer rediscovers any of her previous form, I think she wins this. There is, as you say, the vibes from the market aren't positive, but let's hope she can give it one last go and make it to round 2. Moving on to perhaps one of the matches of the first round. Paula Badosa, minus 180. Katy Boulter, plus 143. Spread 2.5 games. Totals 21.5 games. I mean, I suppose a lot of this concerns Badosa's fitness. I mean, she won their only previous meeting at last year's French Open in 3 sets. She won 2 matches in Berlin, then pulled out injured against Xinyu Wang after dropping the first set. Reached the last 16 at Wimbledon last year, but as I say, this back issue that she's had for at least 2 or 3 years, always a question mark there. Boulter hasn't been all that impressive. I mean, I fancied her to win at Nottingham for a 3rd consecutive year. She fell to McCartney Kessler. She doesn't look like she's in the best of form. What's your thinking here, Nigel?
My thinking here is I thought the odds would be a little bit closer than what they are. I think Paula Badosa at minus 180, she deserves to be favoured, but I don't think she's a minus 180 chance, especially the fact that withdrawal in Berlin after that first set annihilation, really. That would be a worry for me. She's had injury concerns for a long, long time. I still don't, even though she's got a fairly decent record at Wimbledon, getting to the 4th round 3 times, I don't believe that grass is a surface. I think that she's quite flaky at the moment in her career. She's at a crossroads in her career. She's been up to number 2 in the world, I think. She's just hanging on to top 10. She's involved in this Instagram love affair with Stefanos Tsitsipas. His game struggled since their relationship blossomed, and tennis may be secondary at the moment in the terms of where they are in their stage of their life. Tsitsipas levels have dropped completely in the last 2 years, and Badosa has pretty much done the same. So that would be a little bit of concern for me. Whereas Katie Boulter, this is her year. I mean, this is everything, and her year is built up for Wimbledon fortnight. She's going to have the home support behind her, which I don't, I've always said this before. I joke about tennis crowds. Wimbledon Centre Court, day 2 at Wimbledon isn't as hostile as the Fora Italica or Roland Garros, but it is an advantage. And I don't think it's really been factored that much into the price here. I think plus 143 is a big price, and I really like the spread plus 2.5 here at minus 103. I also like overs. I think this would go a long way, go to 3 sets. But I'm going to have, I've given you 2 kind of short price favourites. I'm going to have a go with Katie Boulter here at plus 143. I think the price is wrong. I think it's closer to plus 120. And judging again, I like to look at the early flurries of the money, and the early flurry is coming for Boulter here. There is a little bit of a negative towards Badosa. And again, with an injury concern, that would be worrying me. And the other thing I like about it is when their only previous meeting was in the French Open, which you would expect Badosa to win, and you would expect her to win well on what is her favoured surface. Boulter pushed her really close. I mean, really close. And Boulter's on grass is a much better proposition than she is on a clay. They went all the way to 3 sets, and I think it was 6-4 in the final set. And on that day, if you look at the betting on that day, I'm trying to find the betting on that day. The betting on that day, Badosa was a minus $4 favourite, and Boulter won the first set 6-4, lost 7-5, 6-4 on clay. Now on grass, I think it's a perfect opportunity to get a revenge. And I like the Brit at plus 143. I did some statistics on the British women, though, over the years. And if you bet all the British women blind at Wimbledon in the last 4 or 5 years, you actually lose money, because the British women have been very, very short price favourites. Like some of them have been like minus $5, $7. They win. Their win percentage is higher, but your return on your investment is lower because you've been betting them quite at short prices. But the Brits this time around, I think they're being undervalued by the books. Burrage at evens, Katie Boulter at plus 143. I think they've got a much better prospects than what those odds suggest here. So it's a pro-British show, and we haven't even spoken about Emma Raducanu yet. So plus 143, Boulter would be my official play.
Yeah, I couldn't put you off there. I think enough question marks surrounding Badosa at the moment to want to oppose her. I think we're on to our final match, and it features the 2022 champion Jelena Rybakina, heavy favourite against Elina Avanesian. The Armenian $9, Rybakina minus $20, spread 6.5 games, and totals 18.5 games. Now, regular viewers will know I do like finding one-sided matches, and I believe strongly that this will be one of those. Avanesian hasn't played since the French Open, and even then she was in dismal form. She had first-round exits in all 3 of her clay court events this year. So, she hasn't played on grass yet. So she's either badly out of form or she's injured, or perhaps she's both. She did beat Daria Kazatkina in Berlin a couple of years back, but otherwise her grass court record is very average. Rybakina, we know all about her on grass. She's one of the favourites for the tournament. I think Avanesian, I think you used the phrase earlier, I think Avanesian might just be here for the paycheck. I think this will be one-sided. I was looking at the spread. I think we can be a bit bold on the spread. Rybakina minus 8.5 games is plus 310, and I think that's a play. I don't think Avanesian's going to put up much of a fight here. As I say, she hasn't played on grass this year. I think, there are big concerns about her form and fitness. And Rybakina, I think she'll make light work of her in this first round match.
We've got to get a bagel in, haven't we? 6-love. 6-love set.
We could 6-1, 6-2 would do it.
No, but should we bet a bagel at 6-love? Should we go for the 6-love set?
I'm not sure it's been priced up, but if it is, I wouldn't put people off that. I think this will be very one-sided. I think Avanesian, she's better on slow surfaces, and even on clay she was struggling this year. So I can't see her doing anything on grass, and she probably could not have asked, Sabalenka aside, she probably couldn't have asked for a worse opponent in round one. So I think she might just be here for the paycheck, and I think Rybakina is going to steamroller her.
We end with a Rory special. The old steamroller, bagels handing out. Good.
Let's hope so. So, Nigel, let's run through our bets quickly at the end. So we started off.
I've gone for 3. So I've gone for Sonmez minus 1.5 at minus 107. I think Bet Rivers are one of the shortest prices, and rightly so, on the money line at minus 132. But I think Cristian is so poor on grass. He's only won 2 matches out of 13 that she's ever played. I think Sonmez will beat her fairly easy. So minus 1.5 at minus 107 on that. And then I've got 2 money line picks. I've gone for Wang to beat an injured Muchova. The price has moved, unfortunately, but I still think minus 109 is a bet. So I'm going to go for Wang to beat an injured Muchova, an in-form Wang, in form of her life. And finally, I'm going to go with Katy Boulter to produce a shock against Paula Badosa at plus 143. I think those odds should be a lot closer now. I think Boulter should be closer to plus 120, plus 115. I think she's been undervalued by Bet Rivers here, and I think home advantage may get her over the line against a Badosa who retired injured after losing an opening set 6-1 in her last match. So the injury concern worries me, and Boulter, cheered on by a packed house on the first day. They're on day one, aren't they? On the opening day of Wimbledon. We'll get her over the line at plus 143.
Yeah, and my 2 players, I'm also backing a Brit in round 1, Jodie Burrage at even money against Katy Mcnally, which I know you're keen on as well. I'm almost tempted to make that a 2-point play. Almost tempted.
No, keep it. Keep
it one. So Burrage even money against Katy Mcnally. Yanina Wickmayer in her last tournament, her last Wimbledon, at plus 128 on the money line to beat Renata Zarazua. And then finally, I've gone for a one-sider. Elena Rybakina minus 8.5 games at plus 310 against Elena Avanesian. So those are our first round bets, the pick of the first round bets in the Wimbledon women's draw. And Nigel, you'll be chatting to Sean Calvert, doing the same with the men's.
Yeah, Sean has some picks on the men's. Make sure you get across to Betting Weekly Game Bet Match, download the podcast, and also obviously hit a subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button here on the YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to us. We're on that final descent into up to 10,000 subscribers. That's what we want. We want to go up. So we're climbing up to not descent. We're going the opposite direction. We're going up. We want 10,000 subscribers.
Yeah, very, very close to that mark. See, you were with us for the draw yesterday. We've gone through the outrights. We've gone through our first round bets. We've got Betting Weekly Tennis Live Monday to Wednesday. And Sean and Nigel will be back during the tournament with our updates. We've got you covered for the best 2 weeks on the tennis calendar here on Because We Win and Betting Weekly Studios. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy Wimbledon. It's going to be a great 2 weeks. And as I say, keep in touch with all our handicappers on the social media at Because We Win. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.